Hey everyone, welcome to the behind the scenes of our latest project with Camelback Resort.
Hello?
If the energy's right.
I'm really excited to share a proper breakdown of this project. Everything from scouting locations to shoot days and some unexpected post-production magic. We had so much fun making this one and I thought it'd be cool to take you through the journey. So let's jump in. Like all of our projects, it really all began in pre-production. This phase is always the most important because you're working with the client to figure out the best way to achieve their business goals through the work that you're putting out. Once we land on the concept, we're working through storyboards, making sure that the technical side is all locked in. One of the trickier ideas in these commercials was the way the characters would transition into the resort through the phone. This could have easily turned into something clunky or cheesy, but thankfully we figured out the mechanics of it during previs. One thing I really like to do with previs, if we're working with actors, is take their self-tapes from their auditions and kind of overlay them over the existing previs or the storyboards or even just iPhone shots that you get on the Scout. It's not the most glamorous part of the process, but it definitely helps us map out the rhythm of the story and figure all those things out beforehand. For any short form like a 30-second commercial, pacing is really important. So figuring out the pace of their delivery that might be unique from one actor to another can really affect how you shoot things on the day. So when it comes time to shoot, we know exactly what we need from camera, lighting, and VFX. Also in pre-production, we do detailed location scouts. The resort had a lot of great spaces, but not every spot matched the story or the mood we wanted. Scouting really helped us understand each of the shooting spaces better, and it gave us clarity to plan how we'd move through them during production.
And then as he's disappearing and like the lights are flickering and stuff, then it does a crazier move and like dives into the...
Creating previs like this also gives us a chance to get buy-in from not only the cast and the crew initially so they can really start to see the vision, but even on the client side, they can kind of see how things are going to flow before the camera even rolls. Now moving into production, this is where everything really came alive. Our first day was spent almost entirely on the slopes, capturing ski and snowboard footage. The only real behind the scenes we got on this day was from the Insta360, but we were filming with the Ronin 4D, which is absolutely purpose-made for this kind of shoot. We've shot ski stuff with every kind of stabilizer you can imagine, rigging snowmobiles, everything in between. And there really is no better tool than the Ronin 4D for this type of thing. Between the weight, the quality we're able to get from the 8K head, it's just completely unmatched. To be able to have the entire crew working in this DJI ecosystem across different parts of the mountain, we had Carlo, our DP, with the Ronin 4D at one part of the mountain, and then we would have Kerwin, our AC, with the focus wheel and a monitor. He's getting feed and obviously controlling the focus. We had me with a monitor somewhere else on the mountain, and we're kind of just leapfrogging, figuring out where is the talent going to be in relation to camera, and where should the rest of us be. Should we be getting ahead or should we be lagging behind to make sure that we're staying out of the frame, but we're still kind of moving down the mountain together. We're not getting more than 300 to 400 yards away from each other, although the signal really is able to make it almost the entire way up and down the mountain depending on the trail that you're on, which is just incredible. The cool thing about a shoot like this is all of our cast and crew are actually skiers or riders, so we're just having fun in between takes, we're having fun during the takes, and that's always what leads to the best shots. We've always said that the vibe on set is the vibe on screen, and for something like this, it really can't be beat. Keeping up with our child actors was actually a little harder than anticipated. They were both really strong skiers and just wanted to rip constantly, but was able to kind of flex my parenting muscles a little bit and use some of the tricks of the trade to make sure that we're able to get all the shots that we need, and then they can have some fun, giving them breaks in between, just enough to make sure that they're staying excited, staying happy, and of course staying safe. Then before the day wrapped, we shifted gears for a more grounded moment, filming the family and friends scenes at the Summit House. It's a restaurant at the very top of the mountain, and it was a big contrast from the high energy slope work earlier that day, but it helped set the tone for how varied the shoot would be. We didn't initially have anything in the plans for an establishing shot, but the designers at Camelback had recently created a new sign for the outside. It just looked so good that we ended up writing in the establishing shots, and Justin, the photographer, also ended up getting a ton of amazing shots out here. Day 2, we started off down in the arcade, where we actually rigged a DJI Osmo Pocket 3 to the claw machine and controlled it with my phone to allow us to adjust the camera angle while they're playing the claw game to capture some really unique angles, something you don't usually see in an ad like this. And again, I'm really not trying to be a DJI fanboy, but it's such an amazing camera that we're able to cut with these much more expensive cameras, and it holds up. It looks great. Later that day, we headed to the entrance of the hotel lobby and burned through a couple shots with the Ronin 4D with the family and friends, walking in, and of course, had to wait for light, shoot, wait for light, shoot, wait for light. That's how it goes. We then wanted to get this really cool shot with the Sony a7S and the new Laowa 10mm autofocus lens, where we actually rigged it to a piece of luggage. The shot didn't end up making it into the final ad, just there wasn't time. We did end up delivering it as part of the client's clip library, which we deliver with every project. Fully cut, graded footage they can pull from and use later. We wrapped out day 2 with a ton of shots down at the tubing hill, spread from before sunset to after, so we were able to get some day looks and night looks with all the cast involved. We even were able to squeeze some F&B shots in at the end. Day 3 was really the heart of the opening scenes for both of these ads. This is where a lot of heavy lifting happened. We had everything from wide boardroom scenes to much tighter and moodier setups in the storage room. This day felt very different from the prior two, as we were taking a lot more time to set things up and get everything just right. Suddenly, every single little detail mattered: where the lights were placed, how the shadows fell, and the exact timing of all the actors' movements. We were adjusting lighting constantly, tweaking setups, and adjusting all the cues on the timed lights. It's the usual dance you go through on set, but it always feels a little magical when it all clicks into place. Carlo had Andrew and Nate dialing in the lighting cues just right so that everything fell into place at just the right moment. We shot the boardroom scene with the friend group first, which was a bit of a challenge in terms of art direction. The space itself wasn't quite giving us the look we wanted, so in post we ended up replacing the entire back wall. That decision made a huge difference and really elevated the scene. Later that same day, we shifted into the garage storage area sequence with the grandfather and grandson. It was filmed in an old barn-style garage on the property, a very unpolished space, but it ended up working perfectly for the nostalgic tone we were going for as the boy discovered the phone. In each of these setups, the characters transitioned into the resort through the phone.
Hello? Hello?
Oh no!
Something we thankfully figured out back in pre-production during the previs stage. Now, although we had a plan for the phones, in both scenes I did really want to explore doing it practically as well. And we had a motion control setup where we would actually stick both phones to the motion control setup and run that both with the actors in and with them out, so that we could rotoscope the phone out and use the actual movement on set. Now, what that ended up being used for was more lighting reference than when I created both phones in 3D and Blender, and then animated them appropriately, added the lights in because I knew where the lights were on set, and then went frame by frame to animate the lights to the right colors so that the effect they had on the phone created the right effect. Once we wrapped up production and the cameras were packed away, it was time for post. Now, usually this means a lot of editing sessions, but the storyboards really help speed things up. Because we were going to be using both phones in 3D, I needed to get models for this, and while obviously an iPhone 16 model was not hard to find, the specific model of Nokia phone that we were going to be using was less easy. So I actually ended up taking a lot of high-res photos of that phone and modeling it myself in 3D, which didn't take as long as I thought it might. It was really cool though to see how much something like a phone model could add to this. The biggest advantage having these phones in 3D allowed me to adjust the movement, the timing, the beats of the flight of the phone itself. For anything like that, I really like to look to old school, like Warner Brothers animation. The idea of elasticity of movement, of building pressure and releasing pressure. And I think you can really see in the movements of both phones, it has a feel to it that really adds something beyond just feeling physically correct in the space and the movement. It adds initially an explosiveness to the movement, but then it slows down just right so you can see what you want to see just before the end of the shot. And I think it becomes incredibly immersive.
If the energy's
Just like always, we also had a little bit of cleanup to make sure that all the shots were looking their absolute best and nothing distracting made their way into any of the shots. From the slopes to the arcade to tubing, this production, just like the resort we were working at, had a little bit of everything. The team really leaned into the energy of each location, capturing excitement while also staying quick on our feet when challenges popped up. And if you know production, challenges will always pop up. Whether it was adjusting on the fly or making the most of the moments in between, everybody pulled their weight and kept the process moving smoothly. At the end of the day, the best times on set are just about having a great time together. Again, curating that vibe on set that makes its way onto the screen. I think that joy shows through in the final footage. If you like this type of content, be sure to subscribe or let me know in the comments so I have an idea of which way to lean in future videos. Thanks for sticking around for this deep dive. I hope it gave you a better sense of not just what we made, but how it all came together. Stay tuned for more behind the scenes content, and I'll see you in the next one.